All right. So, in our today's session, we are going to focus on the mind behind the hustle. Why are we focused on hustle? Because most of our mental health issues today is driven by the aspect that we overwork ourselves and give little attention to our health, especially our mental health. So, I will be discussing today on how you can navigate both your hustle and also balance it with a good mental and physical state. Remember, the World Health Organization has defined health as the state of complete mental and physical well-being, not necessarily the absence of an injury. For example, you have a cut, like a wound, or maybe you have an infection like from a plasmodium parasite, that's malaria. Those are the aspects of health that most of us have decided to measure on without knowing that health is not just exclusively about you and your physical well-being. Your mental well-being is as important as your body. Remember, I was already stressing out to you all that the fact that somebody's mind is not okay can lead to blood pressure problems, it can lead to sleep disorders, it can lead to what we call stress and many other things that come along with it. And most of the causes of this is because of our hustle. Now, I want us to discuss on the first slide what we call the hustle paradox. I remember that when I was in medical school, you feel that you're important only because of the kind of books you've read and the kind of things you can memorize. Once you don't feel that you can do those things, it's like you're no longer important. And it's the same thing that we all encounter in life. The society has even made it worse because everybody is always doing something. And if you find yourself doing nothing, according to you, in fact, you don't belong to the society. You're not important. And the worst thing is, we find out that most often the kind of people we glorify to say they are the ones who are going to make it in life are the ones that work continuously with no days off. They are the ones that sleep late, wake up early, and of course, we tend to mount it to like sleep is for the weak. If you're strong, you don't have to sleep. But little do we know that this has an inverse relationship to the output that we want to produce. Remember that our work is geared towards producing an outcome, an output, and you will not want to negate or even pay less attention to what might even end up giving you the output which is not what you expected from the beginning. So the paradox is that the society has glorified that many people who work continuously with little sleep hours, or they go to bed early and they go to bed late and they wake up early, are the ones that are going to succeed. And do you know what? One of the greatest problems we encounter today is the fact that we have bills to pay. I'm sure all of us in this meeting at this point in time, you're thinking about one or two things that is pending that you have to settle, especially for those who have in fact, they are responsible over certain number of people under their keeping. You can be a parent, you can be a single or parent or married, you can also be the one in your family that is taking care of all the bills. You can also be taking care of yourself. So every day you have to think about the next thing you have to do to raise money. And of course, it has all hit us in that cycle where you have to keep hustling, rest little, work more. And of course, if you look at my slide here, you realize that studies have shown that from the beginning, when you work continuously, your outcome and your time of work has a steady growth. But after a certain time, when you develop fatigue and you keep pushing it, before you realize what you're doing is not equivalent to high output, it is instead dropping. So the more you work, the more your output drops. But you think that the more time you spend trying to settle something, you think is the more outcome or output you're having. Unfortunately, It becomes a very steep slope, which means what you are aiming to achieve, you will achieve zero of it because you think the more time you spend without adequate care of yourself or your mental health, you think you're more productive. There is a slide in front where we'll discuss these two words. There is the difference between being busy and being productive. And you will not want your work life to be such that you're busy and you're less productive. So this output versus time shows us how the world praises a lot of work, continuous work, and we pay little attention to what makes work productive and sustainable, and that lands us in a lot of mental health issues. Of course, mental fatigue, which is the baseline for which most of those things come. So the question I want to ask you today is, what is the real opportunity cost when you invest time in working without having the necessary rest that you need within all of those busy hustle? And when does your work become, when we say liability, become a problem or become an expense to you instead of an investment? So these are some of the questions we'll be discussing down the line. Why do we grind? I am sure all of us here have many reasons for why we grind. Some people just grind because they need to make money and feel important in the society. As the saying goes, you should follow the money, because where there is money, every other thing follows. Say go for the money, the rest will follow. Well, no be lie, but at what cost? That is the question. There is a statement by Jim Rohn. He says that you should take care of your body and your mind because that is the only place you have to live. And of course, if you are a driver and you're running a car and you have no spare tire, what would happen? You need to ride gently because if it gets bad, you don't have any replacement. So on that note, I am trying to say that you have to take care of your physical and your mental health because you have just one body in which you live. If it crashes, where else will you take a spare? We don't sell, of course, we don't sell spare parts for the mind, neither do we sell spare parts for the body. So why do we hustle? What fuels your engine? People want to survive. I am telling you, there's never been a difficult time than now. And give yourself 5 years from now, life will even be more difficult, which means it will demand more from you in terms of work. Still, trapping you and I in the rat race that the more you work, the more productive you become. But at what cost? Some of us grind because we are too ambitious. We want to do everything. I said I had to be the one discussing this because I'm sure you can hear the many things I do. As a CEO, HomeClinic Foundation, a medical director of True Life, I still do lots and lots of things. So how do I navigate all of these things without losing myself in the process? Anyways, some people grind because they are ambitious. They want to achieve everything and leave a long-lasting mark. At what cost? That is the question you should keep asking yourself. There is a societal pressure where you have to keep up with your peers. As at now, all of your friends have master's degrees, PhDs, and you're the only one with a bachelor's degree, maybe a first school. Well, all your friends are running in cars, and so you need to wake up and get the grind so that you can have a car and match up with them. Maybe the social media even makes it worse. I don't know how many of you go through Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and every day you see how people are getting wedded in islands. You see how people are, running in good cars overseas, and you're like asking yourself, God, when? Say, God, when? So there is the pressure from the media and everything asking you to keep doing a lot so that you keep up with the cultural expectations, keep up with the peer expectations. There is also the need for personal fulfillment. Like I said, some people feel fulfilled because they have achieved several things through their grind. And of course, there are some mental drivers like we are afraid of the unknown. You're afraid of the future. Of course, some of us, like I said earlier, our self-worth is tied to your productivity. But remember, most of these things that fuel our ambition and fuel our grind are the same things that if we don't regulate the way they fuel our grind, it is going to be counterproductive and reduce our productivity, landing us in serious mental health issues. So the hidden strain, or which is the flip side of the hustle, is that beneath every surface of success often lies these things which depresses our mind, or which hinders, or which affects us from being productive. Remember that you are the first asset. You are the first workplace. So you are the first person to be okay first before every other thing becomes okay. Remember that once we soak ourselves into consistent work, it is possible to develop what we call chronic stress. There is what we call acute stress, and there's what we call chronic stress. Well, most of us go through acute stress a lot, but chronic stress is when it persists beyond 3 months, where your body now starts responding by releasing certain stress hormones that begins to alter your physical state. At that level, you're not even talking now just about mental problem. You're talking about a mental problem that has resulted into a physical problem. I will try as much as possible to keep my words very friendly and simple so that we can all interact. So the burnouts here are emotional, physical, mental. I will not only end at that, I will talk about relationship or societal. You lose a connection to the people you care about. This is a paradox. You work for certain people, it could be your family, it could be your children, but you spend less time with them. You're working, everything you're doing is for them, but you are never available for them. That is an opportunity cost which you always have to answer yourself every day. Is it worth it? We have depression, we have strained relationships, I mentioned that, and we have identity crisis. Like I said before, if you go to LinkedIn, especially for high performance individuals, everybody thinks that every day you need to post a new certification, you need to post a new this, a new that. And so there is this congestion where we have to be known for doing something. And the question is it at the cost of your health? Remember that being healthy and being productive is different from being busy. And we'll see that down the line. So the toxic productivity is actually the addictive trap that has led to a lot of mental health issues. And the cycle is often work, you post somewhere, you get praised, and of course, when you are praised, they say, oh, you're good, you're this, you're that. Your dopamine levels, which are your pleasure hormones, they are like, people are praising me, it means I'm successful. And when that moment of praises and likes and comments have passed, when you feel validated, now you go back again. You need to look for something else and do, so that when you do, you have that praises from online and offline, and then you feel that validation, and then so you keep on in that cycle. You keep craving for more because you want to feel good. And to you at that moment, because you're already addicted to those reward cycles where people praise you and you feel good. When you're resting, it feels like you're wasting time. When you're hanging out with friends, maybe on a meal, you're always like, I should be doing something, I need to get to work. Why? You've lost connection with reality, you've lost connection with your social life, and now the only place where you find pleasure. This is actually an addiction. Remember, addiction is not only to alcohol, addiction is not only to drugs like cocaine, methamphetamines, and so on and so forth. Addiction is anything that raises dopamine levels, and you need to have it more often so that you have this repetitive pleasure. Otherwise, you feel like you're no longer yourself. And so, this is how many of us have been trapped, thinking that our identity is actually the praises and rewards we receive on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or you post a picture on your WhatsApp status doing this and that, and people come and say, oh, this and that and that. I want to tell us that this discussion is timely because that is the lie that we have all been trapped in. And remember, the more you become addicted and to the hustling spirit, the more it becomes unsustainable. I will discuss about unsustainable addictions down the slides. Again, there is a difference between being busy and being productive. Ask yourself this question for some few minutes. You're always busy, yes. Are you being productive? Are you always productive? Even though you're busy. There is a difference between being busy and being productive. And I can't lie to you all. At a certain point in time, we are asking ourselves the questions. Yes, I've run up, down, east, west the whole day. What have I achieved? That is a question coming from a productive mindset. The busy man wants to just be doing something. We don't even know whether he's doing the something and is achieving goals or not. So I want you to focus your life as from today on being productive and not being busy. Of course, a productive work is focused work, is working smarter, and it is fueled by purpose. Of course, you will notice that it doesn't overburden itself with doing everything. It does specific tasks because it wants to achieve specific goals. And this kind of specific task is always accompanied by deep work. For those who want to be busy, they are everywhere. In the end, they are nowhere. And they are always in a rush. They are always fueled by the fact that they have to be perfectionist, like they have to be good at everything. And they are always trapped in the mind that the harder I work, the more I achieve, which is counterproductive because the more you work on things like this, the less productive you become. So our how do we balance everything to have a sustainable success? I'm going to share some tips and they may be more of a personal opinion. That is why this webinar today is a discussion. Remember that to have a sustainable success is the goal. You don't want to have this quick and sharp success today, and then from today till 3 months after, you are achieving nothing, and then you have again a sudden success. We want success that is sustainable. You want to be a productive individual that sustains the process. Remember that once you neglect your health, especially your mental health during the grind, you might land in a state where you are less productive, you have less outcome or output, and that can trap you in a cycle where you lose your identity. You might get into depression, and the depression might be what we call chronic depression, where you don't have interest in doing anything again. It's like the world is finished for you. So being productive is not about being always busy. It is being sustainable in your way of doing things. And when we talk of sustainable, it's not about quitting the hustle, but doing it in a wise, in a smart way. Our goal is to build a career and a business that you would not be a slave to it, but it would serve you. So we have to think in a way that should be sustainable. How do I grow incrementally without compromising myself, without being a slave to this, but rather using this to serve me achieve my goals? One of the things is you have to build passive income. One of the reasons why we are always on the rush is that we want to make money to keep up with what? The increase in prices of goods and services. Have you realized that what 10,000 francs can do today is so different from what 10,000 francs CFA could do in the years past? That is to show you that every new day, every new year, the things you have to rush for are more because the purchasing power of money is losing itself out. And of course, the media and every other thing keeps raising the bar. You have to keep raising your work ethic in order to adapt to all of the pressures that come from many of the things that we have out there. So practical strategy one of building a sustainable success, the one that guards your mind and you're not a 9 to 5, a slave to a 9 to 5, but instead your businesses and work is rather a support to you achieving your goals. I want to stress here by saying that a mind that is properly nurtured by providing adequate rest and adequate, let me say, other activities, recreational activities, is more productive than a mind that is consistently working. One of the things is that studies show that the brain forms better memories when you are asleep and solves your problems when you have adequate rest, which is counterproductive to somebody who is always out there thinking that the more you do, the more you achieve. No, if you provide the brain with an adequate amount of rest per day or with adequate recreational activity, it unconsciously works to solve problems. That is to say, if you want a productive brain, you need to provide adequate rest for it. You need to provide adequate recreational time for it. Most of your memory, what we call memory consolidation, that is when your brain is transferring information from your temporal memory into that point where you have to store it permanently. Do you realize that most workaholics find it difficult to remember things? You could do this reflection on yourself. When you become so busy that you have multiple things to do and you rest little, you find out that you have what we call amnesia, memory loss. You forget a lot. Worst for students, they read, like they always say in school, learning without playing make Jack a dull boy. Simply because Jack does not give his brain some time at least to transfer the information he has gathered into the permanent place where he can always remember. Also, studies have noticed that people who are taking driving lessons or learning how to ride a bicycle, if they have a very busy time or if they do the continuous learning without taking breaks, they find out that they take longer in learning a skill like driving, like riding a bicycle. That is to tell you that your memory is programmed to take breaks so that it can be able to form permanent, credible memories and also work on what you have given it to solve the problems that are ahead of you. So how do we tackle this? You have to schedule your breaks. This one is non-negotiable. You must follow the breaks. If you work somewhere, you have to demand that you have breaks during your work schedule. You also have to prioritize your sleep. It is non-negotiable. Remember that once you're depriving yourself from adequate sleep, you're breaking the same body that you want to use to produce the result you want to have. You have to take real lunch breaks. I mean, when you say lunch breaks, it's not a break to go to your phone and start consuming other things. It's also a break from have the lunch, feel the lunch, connect with the lunch, and also with the person with whom you're having lunch with. Practical strategy two is to set boundaries that will protect your energy. When I talk about boundaries, is that you define when you go to work and when you leave work. You define when you maybe watch a movie and when you drop your phone and go to sleep. Those are digital boundaries. After certain hours, when they ring your phone, it should be off. You should also have emotional boundaries. There are some people in this meeting that they find it difficult to say no to something. Please let me remind you, your body, your mind, it is the only place you have to live in. So you must take care of it. Otherwise, if it breaks, you have no spare. So you must learn to say no. Don't accept everything. Remember, doing many things does not mean productive. You are just busy and you're not productive. So practical strategy three is to nurture your mind. Many of us don't give time for reflection. Remember that when you're rolling forward and you don't give time to reflect, there are many things you miss in the puzzle, especially for people who want to be very productive as entrepreneurs. You must give time to meditate and reflect. Of course, because that time you're meditating and reflecting, you're giving yourself the opportunity to also focus on what you have done, what is wrong, what has been done that is wrong. And then you repair yourself, especially when you find out that there are certain things you are not satisfied with. If you keep going ahead and you don't sort out those things, you are giving yourself a mental, you're accumulating a lot of mental unsatisfaction that will lead you to a breakdown. You just have to meditate. You just have to reflect on yourself, the errors, and correct them. And then you refresh yourself. You motivate yourself again as to why you're doing what you're doing and how it should be done. It is also very important to have somebody to talk to. Most often, we are like introverts. We are dying on the inside. We have these highs and lows, these challenges we're going through, and it's like we have no one to talk to. One of the principles of counseling is that you just have to listen to somebody talk. How many of you here can agree with me that in a situation you've had which was so difficult, just the fact that you spoke about it to somebody, even without them giving you a credible or a suggestion on how to navigate it, you felt better after that? That is the fact, that is to tell you that sometimes you just need to air out, you just need to talk to somebody. Where some people do self-talking, where they just stand in front of the mirror, they are talking to the man in the mirror, which is talking back to themselves. Moreover, this world is a cycle where you have people that have gone ahead. Find time, find mentors, talk to them, discuss with them, and find out strategies in which they use to cope with the busy or the ongoing increasing demand and how they navigate all of those things. Because there are mechanisms that people devise in order to cope with different environments. Like I said before, you need to prioritize sleep. It is non-negotiable. Determine your time for exercise, set boundaries, know when to say yes and no, and spend time wisely outdoors with of course, your loved ones. Redefining success. Success is not being busy, and not being busy does not necessarily mean you're productive. Align yourself to sustainable hustle. A sustainable hustle takes care of the body that is hustling, and the body is the mind and the physical well-being. Your success should not be defined by the number of certifications you have, the number of praises you have. It should not define success for you. Your success should be defined by your goals that you meet every day. That is, you should have goals and you should have timelines. Like I said earlier, most of us now are driven by the fact that we are not successful because the world has told you that a successful somebody is a person that must travel to Dubai, must travel to Maldives and post pictures online. Every day must be having a certification on one or two things and posting on LinkedIn. Every day you must be saying something new. That is how the world has forced into you and I. And so each time we sit and we are doing nothing, it's like we are not successful. It's like we are not being productive. Remember, you should measure yourself by your goals and measure yourself to who you were yesterday and what you've achieved today. If you don't redefine how you look at success, you're always going to be filled with a chaotic world that is driving into you several criteria to measure your success. Feeling fulfilled, healthy, and present should not be from outside. It should be defined by your own goal. So true success is an interconnection of you doing well and feeling well, which should be driven by your goals and not by what people say. An entrepreneur, a case study of an entrepreneur who worked 80 hours a week because he wanted to achieve. In the end, he was more connected to his job, of course, and disconnected from the family. And it got to a point where even before meeting his investors, he will always have panic attacks. And when there was a shift done where he had to work of 4 days, and of course some therapy session where he also delegated tasks, not doing everything. When you're a jack of all trades, as they say, you become less productive. And by doing so, the business became more profitable. He regained his passion and his mental health, not just physical health. So, young professionals today, like you and I on the meeting, we are always like, let's say yes to every project. And in the end, what happens? You are everywhere, nowhere, you're less productive, you're always, I have to submit this, I have to submit that. And in the end, you find out that you don't move ahead and you feel bad, you feel some resentment. You're always irritable, like anything they do to you, you just become angry. You get to a breaking point where you're always tired, you always look worn out, and then your quality of work keeps dropping. And if you have to get over this, you need to set a shift, set boundaries, use yes and no. Don't say maybe, no. You have to determine what you need to engage in, and you should be willing to say no. Why? Because you want to be productive and you don't just want to be busy. All right. So quick questions for you all. What is your stress level today from 1 to 10? If you have to grade your stress level, what can you say is your stress level? When last did you have a guilt-free day like today? I have achieved, I'm not guilty of any, you're not guilty of the fact that you're not productive. Again, ask yourself, do you feel that your self-worth is tied to your productivity? These questions, if you can answer them genuinely, you will know if you're measuring yourself or your mental health when it comes to the hustle is at stake or not. So, my key takeaway for this discussion is that behind every hustle is a mind that must be nurtured. Because if your mind is burned out, you cannot build that long lasting dream which you have. So, you need to protect your mind, you need to fuel it, and you need to listen to your mind and give it the time it requires to be okay for the dream and the goals you have to be achieved. Being busy does not mean you're productive. So thank you very much for your keen attention. I will now open the floor for us to interact and of course for others to share their opinion on this matter. Coordinator, you have the floor.
Okay, everyone, you're welcome. So the group is now open for everyone to send your questions and let's all interact.
Any questions in the chat section? If there are, you can just read them out loud. Let's talk about it.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Doc.
Good evening,
You
sir.
getting me?
Yes, 5 on 5.
Thanks a lot for this wonderful presentation. So I have some questions. No, a question first. What if you have a goal that you want to achieve, and the thing gets to disturb you to a point where even if you want to sleep, you can't get to sleep because you have that goal always coming. You are always thinking about it. So how do you uh, prepare? I mean, separate your mind, like remove your mind from that thought so that you can get your rest.
Thank you so much for that question. We are being very practical here. Like I said earlier, I am not free from some of these challenges. I encounter them. So I have to devise mechanisms to navigate this kind of being super ambitious to the detriment of my health, mental health, physical health. I mean, health is not only an issue of mental and physical. If you want to look at health from a holistic standpoint, you realize that health is also social. So, taking care of your health is primary because if you don't have a healthy state, the same things that you're supposed to do and come out with successful outcomes will not be achieved. The fact that you are obsessed or you are, I don't want to use the word, you are so passionate about something to the level where you keep working on it when or you don't feel like you need to rest, just simply means you have a very strong passion in that direction. But understanding that achieving that particular goal to the fullness, to the maximum of it, also requires you to take certain breaks of reflection, rethinking, and also adequately resting already tells you that despite the fact that your mind is ambitious towards this goal, you have to break it into little pieces and also give yourself the environment where you can be adequately optimized both in your mind, both in your rest in order to achieve this goal. That is the reason why in the slide you hear me say, talk to mentors, people who have navigated that same path or journey, and ask them about certain things which they did to cope. Remember that sometimes most of these mentors will tell you their pitfalls. They thought that thinking about it, even when going to sleep, even when walking on the way, was the way to achieve the goal faster. But they still realized that it took them even more time. And so there are several several strategies to cope with every domain of life. And that is the reason why we are having this conversation, so that you can understand that your mind, which is the sole place where some of these passions are generated, needs to be properly oriented to handle these same goals so that it achieves the success without compromising its natural state for maximum productivity. So you need at some point to delegate tasks. For instance, sometimes when I have a busy schedule and a busy day, I call some people, please, can you, like these PowerPoint slides, I had to call somebody, please, can you put this for me on PowerPoint slide? I am busy doing something else. And in that way, you've realized that you achieved the same goal, but you will not have exhausted or compromised your mental health. So those are some of the coping mechanisms. When you say that you're not adequately sleeping because you're always thinking about this, it simply means your mind needs to be restructured. So talking to a professional, unfortunately in Cameroon, we don't even have mental health professionals within our work environment. Where when you're facing a challenge, you go knock at the door, you enter, you have a conversation with a psychotherapist. It's not only in the domain where you are, it's also in the health field. Most of us in the hospitals, like doctors and nurses, we go through a lot of work exhaustion, mental challenges, even some of the things we bring from home and the rest. And we need to communicate with these mental health specialists. But when they are not available, we need this kind of open conversations to discuss about strategies, how we can navigate this. Thank you. I hope your question has been answered a little.
Yeah, yeah, thanks very much, Doctor. Thanks.
Thank you for that question. I don't know if there is another question in the chat section or from
Yes, sir. There are
somebody.
questions in the comment.
Please, can you read them out?
Okay, first question. Please, how can we tell when the drive for success is becoming harmful to our mental health?
All right, thank you for that question. If you were following up with me on the slides, you realize that when you when your drive it starts compromising your relationships, your emotional states. You start feeling like your value is attached to you doing something, it simply means it is becoming an addiction. Like your identity is now tied to your work, which means without it, you don't feel like you are yourself. It's like you need to do more so that you have more self-worth, or you feel like you are becoming relevant. That's already an addiction. But a more focused and less addictive work or mind behind a grind is that which is more focused, which measures its success in increments, and does not become depressed because they fail to meet an objective within a certain time, because they understand that there is the aspect where they need to take care of themselves and also meet up with the goals they are chasing. These are things that if you notice in yourself, you should already know that your work or your grind is becoming toxic instead of becoming something that should assist you, and not you becoming a slave to it. Remember, you can either be a slave to your work, or your work is just part of your what is assisting you to achieve the goals you have in life. So those are some of the things when you notice, you should understand that it is becoming toxic to your health, mental health, rather than being supportive to it. Remember that there are two sides of the coin. When you achieve, that reward of you achieving your goal gives you certain mental satisfaction. But if your satisfaction eventually relies on you achieving a lot so that you keep feeling good, it is becoming addictive, and you might lose yourself. That is, you might lose the fact that you need to give yourself breaks to recuperate, to heal, to refresh itself so that it can be ready for the next task. It means that you're beginning to suppress what is the right way of doing it, and then you're looking for that feel good, continuous feel good. And sometimes you become emotionally exhausted. You feel like you're no longer relevant because you're not doing more again. You feel like they are not praising you because you're not posting more again. So those are addictive tendencies that already begin to reveal to you that you're becoming much more, you're suffering from a mental health issue related to work, which is the grind, than doing it in a productive way. I hope that helps. Next question. If the person who asked the question has something more to share, they are open to share. It's a discussion. If they are satisfied with my opinion on the subject, then we can answer the other questions that are in the chat section.
Okay. The same person is asking this question which goes, and also how can we maintain mental stability when dealing with failures or financial struggle?
All right, this class we have here is not a comprehensive class, but the few tips I mentioned through the slides is just to help us understand that we have a world where everything fits together to affect our mind. The reason why you grind is because you want to meet up with financial demands. And like I said earlier, as life becomes more busy, things become more expensive, and you have to work more in order to meet up with the needs. And so when you have mentors with whom you communicate and they bring out these realities to you early on, it helps you. They also help you with strategies. For instance, you are young, I am young. We can discuss with mentors who will tell you, try to raise income, and the income you raise, which is not actively involved in maintaining your day-to-day life, can be invested in passive sources, where even at a certain point in life where things become way expensive, your passive income can begin to solve certain aspects of your life. Remember that somebody who fails to plan would easily be caught up in this rat race, in this race of slavery where you have to grind until you break your mind and your physical, your mental and physical state. So one of the ways of handling it is to early on discuss with people, or even by your observations, you can anticipate that this is how the war is trending. And so you meet credible mentors who can tell you how to begin to position yourself in order to avoid some of these circumstances that can push you to the wall where you have to grind until you break down. And that's the more reason why you see me put this passive income to buffer for inflation, because most of the crises we have in the world today, especially when it comes to grinding until we break down, is because we are looking for the means for survival, making money. So one of the ways in navigating this is anticipate your struggle and prepare to face them ahead of time by discussing with mentors. And also, discussing with mentors, they might give you strategies on budget management, how to prioritize your spending, how to invest wisely, and so on and so forth. Those are many things that could be ironed out if you discuss with mentors in their respective fields. And like I said, because of some of these problems, you might want to solve it using strategies that you think are self-developed that may have been proven not to work. But experts can tell you strategies that you can use in navigating. And that's the more reason why you always hear people say, have a mentor. If you're it's about marriage, have a marriage mentor. If it's about finances, have a financial. If it's about time management, have somebody in that direction. If it's about your spiritual goals and the rest, have mentors in that direction, because they will help you navigate these things perfectly in a smart way without putting pressure on yourself too much. And of course, navigating it with strategies that will help you evade some of the things that will come later on in your life, and you will not grind until you break down. Thank you. Hello?
Okay, next question.
Yes, next question. Next question.
Okay, it's a contribution.
All right.
Social and peer pressure also contributes to mental instability. Everyone wants to ride a Lamborghini for satisfaction rather than build a happy family or a healthy community. Thank you, Kevin, for that contribution.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that contribution. Like I said, people measure their self worth now based on what others do online. Uh, for instance, recently I had a discussion in the office with my colleagues, and they were talking about a certain wedding that was done in a certain island for over 25 million francs, $25 million or so. And everybody was hyping it. Imagine the impact that has on others who are seeing that and they feel like they need to grind until they have such weddings. So there is a societal standard that is being brought by peers through social media, through not just social media, even within physical community. Just like you see your friend is doing this or putting this, and you are pressured because you want to measure up to that, and that brings a lot of exhaustion during your mental grind. For the fact that somebody is running a Lamborghini and you can just afford a bicycle based on your goals, that's success. But you feel like, no, your mind is like, no, I'm not successful. I need to keep grinding because I need to have a Lamborghini for it to be a success that is measured. So thank you very much. Peer pressure is a very, very serious factor, especially among the youth. Remember, The reason why we have this discussion is for you to, first of all, break yourself out of the myth. You should only measure your success relative to who you were yesterday. Are you meeting up with your goals? Are you improving? If yes, then you're successful. Of course, keeping healthy families and relationships should be prioritized over running in fancy cars and coming back and you're broken. Thank you very much for that contribution.
Okay, another question. The question is, how can someone manage his or her goal when those who trust them to work with block communication at the time that they are needed? The situation is really frustrating.
All right, it is simple. You have to build teams that you can trust, teams that you know you can call them and the answer to the call. Unfortunately, it is just a signal that you did not have a good team or people you trust or you lean on. You have to restructure. You have dismantled the team and build a new one all over. That is all I can say because you cannot force people to be what they are not. You just simply have to sit, reflect, and understand that those you work with are not the persons that can support you within the atmosphere of your enterprise to move ahead. So you can break that team and build a new one of committed persons who have shared goals and are willing to live up to those standards to help you collectively achieve the global goal, which is the goal you have as a little company or corporation or whatever. Thank you. Any other question?
No, sir. So you made mention of home cleaning and some of us were late. So can we throw more light on the home cleaning?
All right, thank you so much for giving me another opportunity to talk about home clinic. Here I am. I am Brain Tarawokwinji, a medical doctor with over 4 years of clinical practice and community health practice. And I am the founder and chief executive officer of Home Clinic and Home Clinic Foundation. It's not just founded by me alone. We have a team of persons behind the whole project. Home Clinic is part of Home Clinic Foundation, which exists to make sure that people have healthcare accessible to them at the comfort of their homes at an affordable price, which is of quality, without breaking the boundary of always going to the hospital to face the long lines, and also without having to think of so much expense when it comes to mobilizing people with disability and people who are immobile. So Home Clinic simply wants to provide primary healthcare services to our users at the comfort of their home, from vaccinations to treatment of minor ailments like malaria, respiratory tract, urinary tract infections, and many other things like counseling, nutrition. So we are there to provide these services to our patients at their doorstep. And Home Clinic Foundation exists to make sure that people have access to health. Remember, health is not just treatment, it also goes through communication of the right information that will help people take good decisions. So, Home Clinic Foundation is about bridging health inequalities across underserved territories, especially in conflict affected and rural regions of the country. So, our goal is to address issues around sexual and reproductive health, address issues around drug and substance abuse, issues around chronic diseases like diabetes and hypertension. And we also have a digital health initiative where we want to use digital health technology, just like this webinar we are having, to make sure that we reach people with health information that will drive them into taking informed decisions about their health. And finally, we have research. We believe that research is supposed to guide the way health is being practiced, evidence-based medicine. So Home Clinic Foundation is about driving research that will inform evidence-based practices and inform the policies of Cameroon, which will eventually be to tailor it in order to meet the health needs of the population. So that is me, Brain Tarawokwinji. I am the Chief Executive Officer of this wonderful initiative that is collaborating with GreatRift Foundation and other amazing partners to make sure health is accessible for all, which is the Sustainable Development Goal 3. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
So if you want to get to us,
So now,
we have our Facebook page, our LinkedIn page.
okay,
We also have our WhatsApp communities. You can get to me or you get through Mr. Victor or some of our GreatRift Foundation partners. They will always channel you to us and we can provide you health services either via the mobile or the telehealth system. So visit our website at homeclinic.care. You will see some more about us and you'll be able to communicate with us directly from there to our WhatsApp bot. And very soon we'll be launching our digital health platform, the first version of it. And we would encourage you all to communicate with us even on issues on mental health. We can always receive you and connect you to the right persons with whom you can discuss, and everything is confidential because these are professionals that are certified. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you very much. I saw a hand of Jesse Leke. Please, do you have something to say? Okay, I think she has nothing to say. So you spoke about Great Reef Foundation. So can Joyce tell us about Great Reef Foundation?
All right, Joyce, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the enlightening session, Sir Brain. It was a very wonderful one, and I really enjoyed. I had a lot of reactions because so many things were matching with me. So, Redefine Foundation is a non-governmental organization based at Saint Des Handicapés, and we specialize in education access, healthcare enhancement. That is why we are in partnership with Home Clinic. We also do economic empowerment and youth leadership with disability inclusion. So this month, as our ongoing programs, we have the Pink Talk show that we are hosting soon in commemoration of the October month, the Pink month. Since October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so we have a little project to do something for that month, and I think that's a wrap of Greatly Foundation. Yes, we have education access, like I mentioned, healthcare enhancement, economic empowerment, youth leadership, and disability. Okay, thanks very much, Joy. So, sir, I think.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, GreatRift Foundation and its partners, and for all the listeners who took their time to attend this meeting. Remember that a healthy mind is equal to a productive mind. So take care of your mind, take care of your body, and you're going to produce more. Don't take it otherwise. And discuss with people whenever you have challenges because your help might come from the mentors, experts, and psychotherapists who are available to help you. We are always available at Home Clinic Foundation and Home Clinic to help you out too. Thank you all so much and have a blessed night.